sound here? It sounds to me like it's just really super loud here, so we'll adjust that here. One of my favorite stories is about a lady at the airport, and she sat down, she was ending lunch, so she ran to the gift shop and bought a bag of cookies. And so she quickly sat down there waiting on her plane. She was messing with her bags, and she set them all down in the chair next to her, and she noticed the guy sitting next to her and reached over and took the cookies and started eating them. She looked at him with indignation and thought, well, so she just reached over there and grabbed one of her cookies, and he looked at her and kind of smiled, and she just couldn't believe that he would take cookies that she bought. This went back and forth for several times. He'd eat one, she'd eat one. He'd eat one, she'd eat one. And finally, the last one came, and he took it out and broke into it and gave it to her, and then left. She could not believe it. They announced the plane was there, so she got on board, and she's so mad. She sets her stuff down, and finally she reaches in her purse and she finds her cookies. Y'all need to think on that. We're talking about judging, and this is my last series of Mythbusters. I know this one's scheduled. What's that? I don't know. What is that?
It was the applause.
Oh, yeah. The longest episode. Yeah, that's what it is. And, I don't know any of it. This is my last one, I think. But anyway, we've been looking at these Mythbusters and just trying to understand God's Word and all this, because the problem is we take it out of context many times to fit we may think it might, or just to kind of suit us in many times. We kind of lay this out for you. The way to have a lively discussion with somebody is that you bring up the S word, sin. You can have a conversation with somebody, whether it's just somebody at Ace or Brookshire Brothers or maybe family members, and you begin to talk about lifestyles that are contrary to the Bible. And when you say and address that according to God's Word, by the way, not according to your opinion, we'll get to that later, but when you address that to somebody and you say, well, that's a sin, the Bible calls it sin, immediately there rises biblical scholars out there. Well, so but the Bible says that you shouldn't judge. And by you judging, you're a hypocrite. And so it's very clear that the Bible says that we should never ever judge. And the way that lifestyle presents itself, you can't say that you talk about another religion. And you say, well, that's not right, that's not biblical. And that person becomes a biblical scholar and says, well, the Bible says you shouldn't judge. I heard one time one guy told me, he says, well, that's one of the commandments, thou shalt not judge. Some of y'all go, I didn't know that. Not in there. And so all of a sudden we began to quote this Matthew chapter 7 verse 1. I hope you have your Bibles, you need to turn there because we're going to look at all of that. And contextually, we really quickly look at that. And so Matthew chapter 7, we're going to be looking at this. Now no doubt that is in the Bible, and you see that very well, judge not that you will be judged. We understand that is a biblical deal, but it's just like all the myths that we've looked at over the past 5 years, as Joe had mentioned, that all these myths, it doesn't say what we think it says, and it doesn't mean what we think it means. Let me just tell you straight up. Jesus never ever says that we should not judge, that we should not call sin a sin. He never does say that. And listen, as Christ is our example, we're going to look at Him today and how He handled it and how He was also a judge without condemnation. And we're going to look at Jesus as He did it because He clearly tells us there's a way to do that and there's a way not to do that. Because Jesus, in His example, He calls what is wrong and what is sin is sin. He clearly does that, and yet we find ourselves, should we or should we not? Now let me tell you straight off, also, on the other hand, we're not to be God's censors. In other words, we're not to go around, and supervising morals of our community and pronounce condemnation on that. We're not to be fault finders, is what the Bible says. You understand that? We're not to go around and say, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. We're not to do that. That's God's rule. So we're going to look at Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 6. I'm going to ask Andrew if he'll read those verses to us, okay? So follow along with me. We're going to read this contextually, and we're going to also look at some stuff before and some stuff after so we can get a really good understanding of it. Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 through 6.
Judge not, that you not be judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure that you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you see a speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take a speck out of your eye when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you.
Thank you. Let's go back to verse 1, Joe. Notice what it says right the very first thing. It says, judge not, and then there's a period, an exclamation mark, right? There's not, is there? It's so important. If Jesus, as he's speaking here, would just put a period there, then we wouldn't be having this conversation today. And the title of the message would be clear, and it would be a myth that Christians, we should judge. You know, and that would be it, because it would say, judge not. Or shouldn't judge. I'm sorry. Should not judge. Christians should not judge. But there's not a period there. There's a comma there. And what follows is this explanation of how we are to judge. What is rightful judging and what is unrightful judging. What is good judging, what is bad judging. In fact, we have to remember this, that bad judgment is always prohibited, but good judging is practiced. We're to practice that. And so we find here that at the very beginning of this, a lot of times we just stop right there, we put a period or an exclamation mark, and we don't fully read the rest of this before and after. And because of that, this myth of Christians should not judge exists among Christians today and also among our world today. And so we find this. So actually in the context, it's not a prohibition to judge, but it's a stern warning of how we're to judge and how we're not to judge improperly. So after Jesus says this, if you notice, look at verse 6. Go ahead and go to the next bit. Notice right after he says, don't judge, notice this, he said, first of all, verse 6, do not give dogs what is holy, and do not give what? Pearls to pigs, because they're going to trample on it. Isn't that funny? When Jesus said, don't judge, and then immediately he begins to refer to individuals as dogs, so that mentality is dog, and that mentality is pigs. And so immediately when Jesus says, don't judge, he comes right back and says, listen, you've got to understand, people out there, dogs, by the way, that isn't your pet chihuahua at the house too. Where a dog is stray dogs out there that run wild. They're vicious dogs. And then the pigs, obviously, these are swines, you know that, which for a Gentile, for a Jew, that was, to even think about giving something of value to something that you devalue, such as pigs. That is just silly, isn't it? Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7 it says, it's foolish to give instruction and wisdom to fools. And this is what this is referring to. And so immediately when we read that, Jesus said, don't judge. And then immediately he says, right here, don't give to dogs, those things that are going to reject God's word, truth, wisdom, instruction. Don't give that to them. They won't receive it. It's just like giving food to dogs and giving pearls to swine. So there's got to be a judgment. Who's a dog and who's a pig, right? You kind of understand there? So contextually, all of a sudden, we've got some problems here saying, don't judge. And yet immediately Jesus says, there's some dogs out there and there's pigs out there. How do you know? You got to judge. You got to look at what's going on there. Same principle in Matthew chapter 7. Let me show you this. Jesus goes on. Contextually, we're going to look at it. Beware of false prophets who come in sheep clothing. Look at that, verse 16. You will recognize them by their what? Say it. By their what, church? By the fruit. So we look at something, we know a tree by what? By the fruit it produces. Same way with those who are pretending to be spiritual leaders, and yet their what? Their fruit is different. So you will recognize them by the fruit. We're together by thorn bushes, speak about this one. So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but a diseased tree bears bad fruit. Continues on. And a healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor a diseased tree can bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is what? Cut down from the fire. Thus, you will recognize them by what? By the fruit. It's the same principle going on there. Jesus says, well, you've got to be fruit inspectors here. You've got to look at it. You've got to be careful not to take that one verse, verse 1 out. Don't judge or you're going to be judged. And then we read further down, it says, you've got to look at those that say they're spiritually minded, but they're not spiritually minded. They'll deceive you. And that's what's going on in our churches today. So here's the question at hand. So why do so many of us in this room, let's not excuse ourselves, so why are there so many of us think that God doesn't want us to judge? That's the question, isn't it? Okay, let me ask you another question. Are you awake? All right, so we got that one. All right. So what is the conflict here? Because most of us have probably struggled in this area, right? I mean, I shouldn't judge anybody because it says don't judge. And yet, there's some scripture for how do I know what's right and wrong, and how to determine what sin is sin. And how do I know? No, we're not talking about big things here. We're not talking about murder, okay? We're not talking about beating somebody up. We know those are bad things. But we're talking about day-to-day things. We started the conversation 10 days ago in a small group cell about judgment. How do we do that? We're not talking about the big things today. We're going to talk about the little things day to day to day. Because it's contextually, we're going to look at this, and I'll show you in just a few minutes. So here's some things, here's two reasons I want to give you that I'm explaining. I want to give you the reasons why I think that so many of us think that God doesn't want us to judge. First of all, it's a belief that comes from a failure to understand Jesus' word in context. We just take things out of context. The three best ways I can tell you for interpretation of Scripture, here they are. You ready? Context, context, context. That's the best way. Forget the Greek, forget the Hebrew, read it in context. We'll talk about that. The second reason I think many of us think that God doesn't want us to judge is this, is that our natural tendency to interpret biblical words is through our filter of modern day words or meaning. I'll explain that in a minute. All right? Stay away. The rest is gone. Let's go back to that first one. Why do we feel like God doesn't want us to judge? And I think it's a failure for us to read in the context of what Jesus is saying here. All right? And that's where we're going to go with this. First of all, it says the context of judge not, that you be not judged. We're looking at the Sermon on the Mount here. All right? You know what the Sermon on the Mount is? Some of you don't know that. You got red words where Jesus speaks. It's a lot of red words. It's probably the longest red words in the whole Bible right there. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. This is Jesus' long sermon. It's much longer than mine. Maybe, I don't know. Because some of y'all just got to pick out a few things in my sermons. You kind of go with that. You don't remember all of it. This is what's happening, I think, in Jesus' long sermon here. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. Now, hang with me here because this is really cool. This is what I've learned over 2 weeks now. Just something I've been reading over and just hang with me. So the Sermon on the Mount is Matthew chapter 5, chapter 6, and chapter 7. And here's what Jesus is doing. He's setting some high standards on things like anger, forgiveness, and oath, and divorce, and earthly and heavenly treasures. All right? That's what he's doing. So when Jesus says, judge not, this teaching was meant to clarify any misunderstanding in our reaction to this high standard, this high attitudes of these issues. Got to break that down for you. In the past, if you talked about murder, the Ten Commandments said, thou shalt what? Not kill, right? And so there was judgment immediately. If you killed somebody, you knew that there would be judgment. Very simple thing. Jesus comes with this higher standard of anger. He says, if you have anger in your heart, you have malice in your heart, it's as though you what? Commit what? You see that standard? See, Jesus set them up for this higher standard for us too. Because the lower standard was this, don't kill anybody. Or you're going to have consequences. There was a judgment there. Jesus comes along, he says, that anger in your heart, that resentment in your heart, that malice in your heart, that you want to just strangle them. You may not ever do that, but guess what? That attitude, that he's raising the bar here, that attitude of that is just like what? Murder. You take the next one. What's the next one? Forgiveness. No, go back to the part. Forgiveness. He says this. He said, you know what happens a lot of times? The rule is this. If somebody hurts you or does something, you're to forgive them 3 times. And then the 4th time, you're just to haul off and slap the snot. That's what the rule was. They came up with that rule. Pharisaical rules, right? And so they had rules for everything. And Jesus had to deal with them a lot of times, didn't he? over and over again with these Pharisaical rules, because they just made these rules more and more and more judgment and judgment and judgment and judgment. And Jesus sets the bar higher. He says, what does he say about forgiveness?
70 times 7.
Yeah. Remember Peter. How often should we forgive? Peter says, 7 times. So what he did, he took 3, he doubled it, added 1, thinking he's really spiritual. How many of y'all ever did that? I didn't hit him yet. And so he does that, and Jesus comes along. Notice what he says here. He says, when that happens to you, what? Turn the other cheek. Wait a minute. The judgment of that and the standard is raised so that forgiveness was 3 times, slap him. Jesus says, turn the other cheek. Everybody slaps you. What about us? He said, let your yes be yes. Notice this day to day. What's this now? Guys, this was for 10 days ago, that group meeting we had. It's a day-to-day experience. How do we walk in God's grace, in His mercy, in this thing called judgment? How do we discern what's right and wrong day to day to day? And He's lining this out for us. We got the murder part, we got the stealing part and the big stuff here, but how do we live this over and over and over? Here's what the Pharisees did to Jesus a lot of times, remember? They saw Jesus' disciples picking corn on the Sabbath. They go, rules are, you can't do that. Remember that? Jesus, you're going to heal somebody on the Sabbath? Oh, no, you can't heal anybody on the Sabbath. Remember all these rules and rules and rules and rules? So what happens? Jesus is talking. He's setting this higher standard up for them. But He's also saying, because the standard is higher, I've watched you how you did the lower standard, the Old Testament rules and laws, how you twisted that, and how you made all these rules and condemnation there, the judgment. I've seen how you do this. Now that I've got higher standards, I want to teach you about how you're to judge properly. Are y'all getting this? It's real important when you get this part right here. You got that? I need heads doing this or this. It's going to be here a while, okay? And so the judgment of Old Testament laws, if they broke this, okay, they got that, but they had all these rules and all this, and boy, they saw the Pharisaical and how the mindset, the attitude. If you broke this, oh my gosh, you're a sorry dog, you're horrible, you got to do all these things. And when Jesus comes around, you're a horrible person because you're breaking all these rules. And Jesus says, now that at the higher standard, I've really got to teach you a way to judge correctly. Y'all got that? So contextually, He's setting this up. So this is why He says, same measure of judgment, you're going to judge. So the attitude and judgment. Second of this, depending upon the context of the word judge, carino, it can be interpreted 2 different ways. Okay, so we're going to look at this word in the original language context. Okay, so check this out. For the word judge, that's the word that's used on 2 different occasions, but it has 2 different meanings and application here. Let me show you the first one when you see this word. That word judge means an evaluation or analysis. In other words, if you are a judge for a contest, okay, then there may be some rules that you follow there, but that's your evaluation, or that's your analysis, okay? You look at something and you're a judge of that, and you go, well, that's good, okay. Okay, so it's your evaluation, your analysis. The other way that word judge is used in the New Testament is condemnation and punishment. It's kind of like being a parent. You broke that rule, go to your room immediately. You know what I'm saying? So that's a different deal. There's condemnation, there's that punishment when you break that. But that is the same word that is used in this occasion. 2 different ways. Y'all see that? Do y'all see that? Okay. One is condemnation and one is analysis, giving analysis of that or looking at evaluation of that. The first one is the correct way in this context. Judgment is not condemnation or punishment in this, but judgment here is evaluation, analyzing. Remember it said, dogs and pigs, fruit. It didn't say what to do with it, cast them out, burn them, and all that. It just said, wait a minute, you're to evaluate that, be aware of that, what's going So, what's going on? The second thing is this. So first of all, contextually, we look at that word judge and we immediately think of other things here. And then contextually, we have to look at it, that it's called analysis here. And that judgment is, we need to give discernment in what is right and how to judge, and we're to project that, not to bring condemnation or judgment. The second thing, contextually, is this, is that our natural tendency is to interpret biblical words through our filter of modern day words and culture. That's a long way to say, when we read a word, something clicks in our brain cells, right? So when you hear the word judge, somebody judged me, what do you think?
Condemn.
That's right, condemn, exactly. Immediately we think that way, right? That condemnation, that punishment, that rejection perhaps, or that broken relationship here that we see. And then we see somebody judge me, judgment. Our thinking is, it's wrong to judge others too. When we hear that somebody judge me, we all think, well, that's wrong, right? Right? And so, well, somebody judged me for this, and then we always say, well, that's very wrong to do. We're not supposed to do that. And so we immediately, when we hear these words, when we say, don't judge, we say, well, I can't do that. Because that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And that's really not what the Bible is telling us to do. But we think that way because of modern lingo, and it's just the brain cells, and it's just kind of click in, that's wrong. In our culture today, we have a buzzword that is politically correct in how to judge, and that is, what is it?
Tolerance.
Tolerance. Oh, yeah, tolerance. Yeah, there it is. Here's my definition of tolerance. It's a modern day high value trait of moral relativism. High value, in other words, here's how we say the word tolerance and how we view people. If somebody is tolerant, we think that is a noble trait and characteristic to have. Somebody's just very tolerant. Somebody accepts everybody just the way they are. They love them. They don't speak anything bad about somebody. They're so tolerant that they accept everyone, their lifestyles, is whatever they want to do, that's just okay. And we have raised, in modern language, we have raised this word tolerance up as a noble, high-value trait and characteristic of somebody. That's what we've done. The second part is this moral relativism, meaning this, is that morals are relative to you. In other words, what's right for you may not be right for another person, but what's wrong for you may not be wrong to another person. Everything is just gray matter, right? I use that term very correctly too. Everything's just gray matter. There's no rights, there's no wrong, and so morality or spirituality is relative to however you want to interpret it, however you want to see it, however you want to live your lifestyle. That's completely up to you, and that's being what? Tolerant. That's being tolerant. Let me tell you about originally the word tolerance. Originally, let me just kind of read this. Originally, tolerance meant this. Originally, it meant granting others the freedom to be wrong without criticism, in a spirit of grace and humility. One more time. Tolerance originally meant this: granting others the freedom to be what? Wrong without criticism, in a spirit of grace and humility. Now let me give you the definition of tolerance today. Here it is. Granting others freedom to be wrong while producing truth and grace and humility. That's the original. Now, if you show judgment, what? You're wrong. You're wrong. That's not wrong. Don't judge me. All right, next one. Number 2. Show this. Tolerance means that there's a right and there's a wrong, and you have the freedom to choose. Jesus really showed that a lot, didn't he? He showed that a lot. Nowadays, what's this? To be tolerant, there's no universal standards. Anything can be right, anything can be wrong, it's up to you. Thirdly, moral reality. There is reality in tolerance. There is right, and there is wrong. There is truth, and there is falsehood. Today, about you, you can determine what is right and what is wrong. Now, let me show you how Jesus handled that in John chapter 8. You remember the woman that's caught in adultery? Remember that story? These Pharisaical guys trying to, establish the rules and the judgment, the condemnation, trying to catch Jesus, implementing that when he wasn't speaking that. So they take this lady that's caught in adultery, they throw him in his feet. Y'all know the story there in John chapter 8. And Jesus' response, you remember? Y'all remember that one? Yeah. What? Go ahead and say it. Yeah. Whoever's without sin, what? Ah, there it is, preacher. We shouldn't judge. Because we all got sin, right? There it is. That's a great example that Christians should not judge. Right? Got to finish the rest of the story. So Jesus, I love this. Well, great sermons with this. He bends over and writes in the sand. We don't always say that. We all have sanctified imaginations about that. And you're glad you weren't there. And he writes in the sand, and then the Bible says, the oldest to the youngest, to the left. And then he turns to that woman. She guilty, folks? Yes. Turns to her and says, we're your condemners. We're those that condemned you. Remember that judgment? What we said? Remember the first judgment? That's not part of it. That first judgment is condemnation and punishment. And that's that word right there. What are those ones that judged you, condemned you? Neither do I. If we put a period there, that'd be kind of cool. Then we can't judge. But then he says this, and then he says, go and sin. Yeah, sin no more. Y'all hear that? Jesus judged her. He did. He called it sin. He called it sin. Today's society, well, she just made, she's struggled in life, and she's doing the best she can, and everybody's got to make a living, Yeah. Jesus, he just calls it sin. I don't condemn you, but I'm going to call it for what it is. It's sin. And get up and don't do that. Amen? Y'all hear that?
Yes.
So we're getting an example from Jesus. How do we do this thing called judgment? And Jesus beautifully distributed that. And just, man, what a great way to do this. All right? Interesting note here. We'll talk about a little bit more about tolerance. Boy, I've got a long way to go here. Interesting. It's only in the area of tolerance. It's only in the area of morality and spirituality that our society enforces tolerance, forbidding the moral and spiritual judgment. Y'all know that? That just went right over your head right there, didn't it? It's only, tolerance is only given in the area of morality and spiritual. For example, there's no tolerance in engineering work. Building a bridge, you have an engineer who builds a bridge, right? And he just says, you know what, I think I'm going to use whatever material I want to. I think whatever I feel like it. I think I'm going to design this. That ain't blueprints. This engineer designs this bridge made out of whatever he wants to, make stuff in his backyard, just because he feels that way. Are you going to be the first one that drives over that bridge? Yes or no? No. Absolutely not. How about a doctor? Doctor comes to me and says, you're sick. Boy, you've been sick for a long time. We don't know what's wrong with you. Here's a handful of many different kinds of pills, blues and greens and yellows and purples. You just pick for whatever you want, whatever color you want there. Go ahead and pick it. It'll make you feel better, right? You going to do it? No. So see, in the world, the real world, there's right and there's wrong, right? I mean, things that we can judge legitimately. There are things that I guess we just can't see for sure, but things that we can really see truth and things that are going to work and things that are not going to work. We've got to have discernment on those things, right? So how do we do this? Where do we go for this clear discernment on how do we work this? It's true, that Bible, by the way, is absolutely true. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. We go to the next one, Joe. I don't know where I'm at now. Let's just throw something up there. Okay. The Bible does not forbid us from making judgment. Rather, in order to judge properly, Jesus gives us standards and principles in making the right kind of judgment. That's where we're going to go with this. We're going to land this thing in the next whatever. But that's what we're going to be talking about. So if we're to do this, Jesus is enforcing good judgment. And he's emphasizing that in the past we've not been good judgment. We've not used good judgment and how to do that. He's going to teach us and show us. So I want to give you 5 principles or 5 keys in right judgment. First of all is this. Check this one out. All right? This is pretty easy. The standard we use to judge others is the standard God will use to what? I think verses 1 and 2, let's read that again. Judge not that you do not judge. With the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use it, will be measured unto you. How many of y'all know that scripture verse? Yeah, we know that one. We kind of avoid it, but that's in there. Let me tell you what it doesn't mean. First of all, it doesn't mean this. That if we overlook or if we ignore the sins of others, we're off the hook. We're not going to be judged. Y'all see that? And sometimes we might think that way, right? Well, I'm just going to be neutral here. I mean, neutral. I'm not going to judge anyone. I'm not going to use this measure of judgment, the ruler of judgment, because I don't want to have that ruler in my life. So therefore, I'm not going to be judged because I don't judge. That's not what it's saying. You wished. It doesn't say. It doesn't mean that we can sin with impunity. Impunity just means that will not have consequences if we don't judge. Not true. Do y'all understand that? We will all be judged. We'll stand before God and we'll be judged. So just because you didn't judge does not mean you will not be judged. So what does it mean? This is what it means. It says that we're to judge with extreme caution and to be spiritually minded as we do this with clarity. God, who sees everything that you do, He knows everything about you, the good and also the bad. And one day God is going to judge that good and that bad. You understand that? So let me ask you a question. How do you want God to judge you? Do you want God to judge you with mercy and grace? Yeah? Everybody in on that one? You better make up your mind now before we get there. Too late once you get there. And so if you want, in grace, what means undeserved merit. And then mercy is you don't get what you really deserve. So we want grace and mercy, right? We want something that we couldn't earn for, and then we don't want what we really deserve. That's mercy. And so if we give grace and mercy, that doesn't mean we ignore it, because God's not going to ignore sin in your life. You understand that? Y'all understand that?
Yeah.
He doesn't ignore sin. Look how He deals with sin. I'm going to sacrifice myself so I can give a way out for these heathens down here. He sacrificed Himself. That's how He deals with sin. You think He's going to ignore it because His Son, God in the flesh, bled and died for you and me? Do you think He's going to ignore sin that He sacrificed for? Absolutely not. And that's how we approach sin, by the cross of Jesus Christ. That's the only way we approach it. Not to judge. And so let me tell you, the way God handles that is that He handles it with grace and mercy. And that's the way we should handle it. Right? That's the standard God uses. Do you understand that? That's the standard God does. So let me say this way. You may have a grudge against somebody in this room. Don't raise your hand. You're just mad at somebody. Unforgiveness, resentfulness. Some of y'all sitting there and I saw it. That person came right in your face. That picture right there. That person, that individual. Well, would you let it go today? I'm going to get on this out. Man, that's asking a lot. Yeah. You're a pastor, a shepherd. You have to walk that way. Well, so I have to tell you the truth. There's one day you'll stand in that same measure that you didn't let go. It's going to happen. It's not going to be nice. There'll be a lot of tears before you get to that. It's that same measure. So could you release somebody today? Forgive them and walk in grace and mercy? I'm not saying you ignore that hurt. Amen? I'm not saying that. You nor the hurt. I'm just saying, deal with the way God's standard is about judgment. Number 2. Gotta go. Check this out. Number 2. Principles, keys to right judgment. Number 1, use the same standard God judges with. Secondly, deal with your own sins before you look at the sins of others. There's the fly in the ointment. Look at these verses. Why do you see that speck in brother's eye? You notice that log in your own eyes? This is Jesus talking. Remember who Jesus is? Carpenter? We'll come back to that. Or how can you say to your brother, "Can we take that speck out of your eye?" When you got a log in your own eye. You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye. Then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Did you see that right there? Right there is, look, you see that. You see that issue that they have. That you made a judgment call based on the Word of God. There is a sin in their life. But before you can help them, you got to deal with your own self. Did y'all see that? So Jesus didn't say, don't ever judge. Because without that judgment, we couldn't see that log, that speck out of the person's eye. But notice there, Jesus is carpenter. I'll bet you, I think, these are both related there. That speck is probably some sawdust. Can you imagine? Have you ever had just a little bit of something in your eye? It ruins your day. It can distort your vision. It can scratch your cornea. It can do all these kinds of things. And notice what he says as a carpenter. He says, take that tiny speck. You know, when you see that tiny speck in somebody else, and when you've got the same product going on in your own eye, but it's a bigger product. You know? Think what it doesn't mean is we have to be perfect. You know that? This isn't saying that you have to be perfect and you don't have any specks or any logs in your own eye. It's not saying that at all, be perfect before you do this. But what it is saying is that sometimes we exaggerate the faults of others and minimize the same fault. See, I think this is the same product, the same wood. I mean, the same product was wood. And the sawdust is wood, and that plank, that board, is the same wood. And here's what I've discovered. When I notice something in somebody else, and I become very critical and judgmental over them, I notice, I'm able to see that because what? Go ahead and say it. It's in me. She's such a gossip. Uh-oh. Man, you can't trust that person. They tell lies all the time and just did my income tax. You hear what I'm saying? It's so easy for us to see that same stuff in others, and we exaggerate it when all along we have that same stuff. And look at the remedy here. It doesn't say, well, don't ever do it, don't ever do it. It just says, because you've got to be perfect for you. It says, first of all, deal with your own self before you go out and deal with somebody else. Y'all get that? Stop what you're doing sometimes. When you see something that is wrong, it's okay. I mean, we've got to have discernment to see what's wrong, to stay away from that. Jesus talked about this. Stay away from false teachers. Stay away from dogs that won't hear biblical truth. Just don't go there because they're not going to receive it. Stay away from those. You've got to turn to that. But let me tell you, before you do that, you've got to examine to the Spirit of God and do something else. Have you ever heard of the Lowell syndrome? Lowell syndrome is this disease in your eye. And what it is when you look, obviously through your eyes, but when you look out, you see these waves. It's a disease, and what it is, you're seeing the blood vessels and the blood stream as they go across your eyes, and you see these lines all as you look, especially in sunlight. However, this came from Sir Lowell in the 20th century. He was a famous astronomer who in Arizona had this huge telescope and would look at it, and his focus was on the surface of Mars. And as he documented this years and years ago, 20th century, as he documented this, he noticed something very strange that was going on the surface of Mars. He saw these canals and these channels. He began to document that. And so as he produced this and showed pictures of this and designs of this, he began to describe these canals. And even to the point of their Martians on Mars. They built these canals. And there was life at one time. And it was widely acclaimed and accepted among astronomers. Until Space Probe circled Mars and took pictures of that, and there were none of those canals. And why? It's because when Sir Lowell was looking, he was seeing those lines from his eye, and he thought those were canals up there. This is what Jesus said. He's saying because the disease of sin in us, it distorts our vision, and we begin to see those things, make those judgments. That's a great illustration. I'm going to do something. Because we do that. We do that all the time. It's kind of like the lady who complained to her neighbors, said, man, your laundry is always dirty. You wash it, you put it on the line, and it's just yellow. It's dingy yellow, and you wash it. And she went over and shared with her soap that she used. She came back, and it was still yellow. Finally, she cleaned the kitchen window and discovered it was the yellow in the kitchen window that made the neighbor's laundry look yellow. It happens to us all the time, don't it? We look at somebody and we go, oh, let me tell you about that person or that, and we judge them by their cover without really understanding it. Are we guilty of that, everybody in this room? Yeah, we do. It's hard sometimes, isn't it? And that's why we have to be spiritually minded. We have to be really in tune with the Spirit of God. Lord, create me a clean heart. Wash me, purify me. And I promise you, if you walk in that, the Lord will lead you to lead other people, perhaps in a better direction. Number 3. Man, I need to hurry. Number 3. Make sure your judgment matches God's judgment. Verse 2. Let me read that one again to you. For with the same judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the same measure, it will be what? Okay. We know this. We've got to understand that same judgment. Because if what I'm saying is true, which it is, I believe, that God says that He's not saying that we're prohibited to judge, but He's saying we're to do right judgment, and we're to practice that. How do we do that? So we're to make sure that our judgment, that standard of judgment, is the same as God's judgment. And there's two sides to this coin too, by the way. One side is, well, I'm just going to be quiet about judgment, then I'm off the hook. Do you understand that that's not good? No, you don't understand. That's not good. So if you know somebody and they're practicing and participating in things that are biblically principles of sin, are we just to ignore them and just to be quiet? So I'm not going to judge them. I know they're just living that lifestyle that is contrary, not to my opinion, but contrary to the Word of God. Am I just to be quiet? Just like you are now? Several years ago, I saw on television one of the most famous American preachers of today, popular, I should say famous, popular, had a chance to speak against the sin of homosexuality. And when asked very directly, do you think homosexuality is a sin? Well, the lifestyle people, that's not what I would choose, but, everybody has a right to do it. And I'm going, this is a chance to just say the Bible clearly says that homosexuality is an abomination unto God. I'm not, hear what we're saying here. That's what the Word of God says right there. And we're to love the sinner and hate the sin, right? But still, it says right there, and this guy flaked out. You had a chance to say, you know what, the Bible says this, but I love people, and I want to preach the gospel to everyone. But just had a chance just to proclaim it. Silence on one side. Now the other side is this. Here's the other side of this coin. All right. The other side of that coin is that we just begin to judge things that the Bible doesn't even speak about. Let me go group as Baptist. Here we go. Baptists used to tell us that we couldn't dance. We couldn't play loud music. And my church. That was sinful. Certain groups that I wasn't supposed to listen to. Drinking? Oh, Lord, never your take drink. And tattoos? That was a no, or, no. And all these rules and these things, and playing cards. Remember that one? Some of you got to be really old. My parents told me that, but I was, Smoking? Oh, if you smoke, you may not go to hell, but you would smell like it. I mean, that's what they just said. And so I was afraid of all those things and not to do that. Did y'all hear what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah.
Now, let me say, some of those things probably are good for you, but to make that, you shouldn't do that because that's a sin. It says, you shall not smoke. It's just not true, guys. Do y'all know that? It's just not true. And that's why you'll never hear from this podium. Well, I'm here. You'll never hear that kind of stuff. Because we put these standards, and that's not what God says, and those judgments aren't His. And so we've got to be careful here. We have to label what is sin in the Bible. Some of you know, I mentioned just the one, homosexuality. That seems to be this buzzword out there. It says, well, we just don't know people's lifestyle. Maybe the chromosome, maybe this other. No, the Bible says it's just sin, and that's how we deal with it. That doesn't mean we reject them or condemn them. You hear me? That means we love them. Speak the truth. Mercy and grace. Because that's what we want from God, right? When you stand before Him, you've got some things going on in your life and just, you want mercy and grace, okay? Number 4. I only got 2 more. Here we are. You should never condemn. Read that scripture verse 1. But love your enemies. Do good. Lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward be great. Those who love the enemies, those you want to condemn, you want them to God, you just sick them, get them in a headlock, take their finances away, take their family away, make them look stupid. That's your enemies. Expect nothing in return. And you will reward be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For He is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. Be merciful, even as your Father is what? Merciful. Judge not, you will not be judged. Condemn not, you will not be condemned. Forgive, you will be forgiven. Forgive. Just read through that yourself. And then He says it again, that same measure will be used, the same measure back to you. Don't condemn. Remember that word condemn is condemnation, punishment. See, that's God's prerogative. That's not yours. Do you understand that? So if you do that, you're going to hell. Do you know you cannot say that? That's not your prerogative. That's not your right. No, that's God's doing. Okay? But we are to evaluate. We're discerning. And in that evaluation, in that discernment, here is our ministry in that broken relationship. It's called, we have the ministry of reconciliation, bringing that relationship back unto the Father. Not to disown them or to bring punishment with them, but we're to bring a relationship. You read the Sermon on the Mount, and I'm telling you, it's not about rules and rituals, it's about relationship. Read it with that mindset of relationship, and you'll understand, Matthew 5 through 7. Number 5, this is my last one here. A great principle in how to do right judgment. Always judge with what? Grace. Ephesians. Somebody read that, would you? Quickly.
I therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to the one hope that belongs to your call. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. But grace was given to each one of us according to the measure of Christ's gift.
Nice. Always give, always judge with what? Grace. I love that word. Y'all like that word, grace? Yeah, if I had maybe more kids, I'm gonna name them Grace. You see, when our judgment leads to personal attacks, and bitterness, and anger, and resentment, and hostility, and raging anger, something's terribly wrong with that, isn't it? But don't just say, as I said, we're to love the sinner and hate the sin. How do we do that? That sounds really good, doesn't it? But that's hard for us to separate the two, isn't it? Right? Somebody does something to you, so well, I just don't like what they did. No, you don't. I don't like them. That's what happens a lot of times. It's hard to separate that. Let me show you how we can do that. It's called self-love. How do you treat yourself when you mess up? You probably hate what you did. I just hate that I did that. I hate that. But I love me. Right? Right? So when we do something, remember, as we give this judgment, we give it with grace. How do I want to be treated? And if you read that in the Sermon on the Mount, we see, if you keep reading that, we see the golden rule: do it others as you would have them do unto you. It's in there. And so tucked in that whole message on Sermon on the Mount is called relationship. How you treat others. If you treat them with raging anger, bitterness, and resentment, and condemnation, and punishment, and judgment, how are you going to be treated? Before you execute judgment, execute it with grace. How do you want to be judged? How do you love yourself? You may hate what you've done, but you don't hate yourself. That's our final question. No. Almost. Final question. How do we know we're judging rightly? Here's the bottom line. You ready? By checking the attitude of our hearts to the Holy Spirit and God's Word, rather than our opinions. There's the key. So let me give you some questions. You take these home with you. You ready? Is my judging done out of spite, malice, or sensitive ignorance? Number two. Is the judging done with a self-righteous or superior attitude? I would never do that. I would let my kids watch HBO. I would never, ever eat that kind of food with all those preservatives. Y'all agree with that? Everyday things we do. You go to that church? Really? Is it done? Is judging which we're to do? Discernment. Is it done from an attitude of love, grace, and reconciliation? Or are we just trying to put people in their place? You do. Put you in your place. There's a sense of brokenness when that happens. And that's just not right. I love you, but that's just not right what you did. I'm going to pray for you right now. Last. We got one more minute. Yeah. Is my judgment an opinion, or is it lifting God's Word? Can we just be careful there? You understand that? There are more churches that split over that right there. Well, it's been my opinion that we've always done it this way in this church. What does God's Word say? That has nothing to do with how we do it here. True story, by the way. Not in this church. They laugh. Anyone? No, it's not. No, yeah. Man, look me right in the eyes and say, give you scripture verse. Hebrews. The Word of God is living, powerful, sharper, leading to a sword, piercing even and dividing part of the soul and the spirit. You notice what it does? It just shows us what's right and what's wrong. That's what the Word of God does. That's how important the Word of God is in our life. And of the joints and marrow. It is what? A discerner of the thoughts and the intentions. I say, we don't know our hearts, do we? You don't know my heart, I don't know your heart. We don't know. You don't know my own heart. That's what the Bible says. But here's what the Word of God does. It's a discerning of those thoughts. And does our judgment line up with the Word of God, or is it just our decadent opinions? And give you last reminder as we depart. Here it is. The same way you judge others, God will judge you in that same measure. Pretty serious? Matthew chapter 6, right before this, here's what Jesus said in the model prayer. Father, forgive us our debts as we what? Do y'all see that? So let's combine those. The way God judges us and forgives us will be the same measure that we judge and forgive others. Do you see that combination right there? There's what it all means. Are we willing to forgive? Are we just trying to implement our judgment? See, God judges and He forgives the way we judge and we forgive. Because of Christ, our judgment can be righteous and it can be correct because of the words He has spoken to us. And we must, George, judge according to God's Word. Last point, I promise you that. I just kind of felt this morning, I read that and wow, there it is. Then we stopped at verse 7, but in verse 8, you know what the very next word is? Ask. Ask. And it says, ask and it will be given unto you, and all this. And we always think it's material things, but I just want to pause right now for another observation, insight, contextual understanding of this. Before we judge, we're to judge. Can we just stop and say, Lord, I need to ask, what do you see here? I need your discernment in this situation. How do I judge this? And how do I respond to this? And how do I bring reconciliation and mercy and grace in this? Lord, I want to ask you right now, would you guide me in this circumstance? What do you think the response is God's going to do? No, you're on your own. I got rules in over here. You got this. No. Through the Spirit of God and through His precious Word, He guides us so that we can bring correction. Church, it's time we start calling sin, sin. We stand in the Word of God, but we do it with grace and mercy. No condemnation, but reconciliation and restoration. Amen? That's how we handle those around us and even ourselves. Okay. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you so much for your word. How precious is your word. And Lord, every one of us in this room, we've been judged, we got beat up over them, we're bitter about it, it wasn't fair and all these things. We walk around and say, well, I'm not going to judge anybody because I saw how that worked. Lord, often we jumped ahead of ourselves, haven't we? Judge something by just the way we saw it. We never asked you, we never prayed about it, we didn't read your word. We failed miserably in this area of judging. Lord, there has to be a teachable spirit here to receive this word today. So I pray this, that in the name of Jesus, that we will just receive this and Lord, we'll take this word and implement it the best we can. Lord, I thank you for these folks here that really are hungry for you. They really want to do what is right. Give them the courage and boldness to call sin, sin, but also to live out grace and mercy to those around us. Lord, we thank you today for your grace and your mercy. Through Jesus Christ and His cross, that we could not even have this conversation without the cross and redemption and the blood of Jesus Christ. For that we're grateful. And that's why we celebrate this time of communion and remembrance of the sacrifice, so that we can have a relationship, so that we can handle this thing called life. It's through Christ. We thank you for the cup and we thank you for the bread. In Jesus' name. Amen. If you're a believer, we invite you to participate as those who come and serve.